Welcome back, all you beautiful Bulletproof handymen and women, to the Bulletproof Handyman business channel. So today I want to talk to y'all about the handyman lifestyle. In other words, what is it like to actually be a self-employed handyman on a day-to-day basis, a week-to-week basis, month-to-month, year after year? What's the lifestyle like? And the reason I came up with doing this video right now is because today's the 2nd of January, it's 2024, and I'm just feeling really grateful for my entire life, for the progress that I've made, for where I'm at this moment, for where I'm going and where I've been, for my family, just everything in general. And I wanted to just talk to y'all real quick because although I am grateful right now in this moment, I'm very happy about most things. It is a double-edged sword as well, so I feel like you should have a really good understanding of what lifestyle you're stepping into if you're just stepping into this business. So let me start off with just a real quick story, and I think if you understand this story, then you understand what it is that I love about this handyman lifestyle. So when I was in the Air Force, I made E5, which is in the Air Force is Staff Sergeant. In the Army it's different, but in the Air Force, E5 is Staff Sergeant. I sewed on Staff Sergeant my 4th year in the Air Force, which is very difficult. It's not impossible, but super, super rare to not have finished your 4th year and yet have Staff Sergeant sewn on. That's really good progress, and I worked very hard to get that progress. But what I realized was the next rank for me to achieve was Tech Sergeant, and there was no way I could achieve that rank for a minimum of 2 more years, and that didn't even guarantee if it might be 3 more years before I even sewed that rank on and made it official. But just to even be able to get an official pronouncement that I would be sewing it on, that next step of the promotion ladder was not available to me for 2 years, because in the Air Force there is time in service and time in grade requirements that you have to achieve before you can go to the next rank. And then once I sewed on Tech Sergeant, it was going to be something like 2 or 3 more years before I could even think about Master Sergeant. And what I didn't like about this was it meant there was always a ceiling above me. It meant that no matter how hard I worked, I could work as hard as possible, study harder than everyone else, learn my job better than anyone else. No matter what I did, there was always going to be a ceiling above me, and I'm always going to be in a position where I have to just sit and wait for a while. Yes, I can excel while I'm waiting to increase my odds, but I don't like ceilings. I wanted to be able to provide for myself, and my idea at the time, I got out of the Air Force for this reason. And the entire line of thinking was, look, maybe I get out of the Air Force and I end up homeless. Or maybe I get out of the Air Force and I end up a millionaire. But I really wanted to feel like wherever I ended up in life, wherever I went in life, I needed to feel like that was because of me, not because I stepped foot into a system that was just going to automatically take me through the steps and I end up wherever I end up. I didn't like the ceiling. So as a self-employed handyman, I think the biggest thing I can tell you, the good news and the bad news, is that there's no ceiling. Now, there's also no floor. You can absolutely fail miserably, and that's probably one of the biggest pieces of advice that you need to understand going into this business, or if you're already in it but you haven't figured this out yet, is you can fail absolutely and horribly. You can step out, acquire this new lifestyle where you get to make your own schedule, you don't have a boss, all of these great things about this lifestyle. You can step into this lifestyle and then you can ruin it, and you can find yourself on the other side having to go back to your old job, or even worse, maybe to go to an even crappier job than your old job. You could end up making less money, or you can do what you need to do, and you can be as successful as you would like to be. And that's the upside, is you can be as successful as you like to be. But one of the biggest things about being self-employed, running a handyman business, is you're now in a position where you're responsible for your success or your failure. There's no boss you can blame. There's no supervisor you can blame. There's no one else you can blame if you fail. But the good news is there's no one else to take the credit if you succeed. If you do succeed, that's all you. Now, for me personally, I enjoy that feeling, but what that means as a self-employed handyman is you don't ever get to shut down. You don't ever get to let your guard down. You know, when you have a regular job, just a 9 to 5, working in a factory or working in a store or whatever it is you're doing, your job is show up on Monday at 8 o'clock in the morning and then to leave at 5 p.m. And when you get home, all your time is yours. Every single bit of your time after you clock out and you leave that job, it all belongs to you. You can spend it with your family, you can spend it on hobbies, you can garden, you can go camping, you can sit on the front porch and do nothing. And there are no consequences for that. That job is still there tomorrow waiting for you to come back. Now, it's never going to make you rich, it's never going to make you wealthy, and it's never going to give you a sense of having really truly earned every single thing that you have in life. It's not going to provide those things, but it does provide you with the freedom of putting everything aside, put all your worries away, and come home, watch your favorite TV shows, cook dinner with your wife, hang out with your kids. And there's something to be said about that. But that's one of the big differences there is no ceiling, but there is also no floor. You can succeed or fail based on your own merits, but you don't get to ever let your guard down. If you stop thinking about where your business is at and where your business is going, if you stop thinking about all of that, you could end up anywhere, including at the bottom. So the next thing somewhat ties in is you don't have weekends, right? That seems like a negative thing. You don't have weekends. But here's the upside of not having weekends is now you don't need weekends. So for my example, right, I work 7 days a week basically all year long. And that's up and down. There's times where more is required. There's times when less is required. There's busier times a year and there's slower times a year. But I don't need weekends, and that's the neat thing because, you know, I make enough money for my wife to stay home and raise my children, which was one of my biggest priorities starting this business was my wife. Now, I was starting the business either way, but we knew we were trying to have a baby, and my wife, I wanted her to be able to raise my kids. I don't want my kids raised by somebody else. I don't want them in a daycare where the employee that clocked in at 9 o'clock that morning may or may not be having a good day, may or may not care about my kids, may or may not even like my kids. So I wanted that to happen. And so she stays home and I work. Now, the good thing about this whole no weekends thing, though, is you don't need weekends. So if we want to go camping, you know, one of our favorite spots when the weather is nice, you're not going to get a spot there, let's say in like March, April, May, October, the nice times of year when the weather's perfect and everybody wants to be outdoors. You go pull into there on a Friday afternoon, all the spots are taken. But guess what? We can go on Tuesday and Wednesday because we don't have a schedule. We don't have weekends. We don't have weekdays. So our schedule is what we make it. Now, that's a lot of people's dreams when they start this business is I don't want to have a schedule. I want to have free time. I want to do what I want with my time. And that's valid. You can absolutely do that. However, as I was saying before, you never get to rest in this industry. Even those camping trips, I still need to go check my phone every now and then to see what messages have come in from property managers, to see if there's any emergency jobs, to see if anybody that I've hired to do some of my work is calling me because it's an emergency and they just, you know, had a toilet blow up on them. There's a lot that can go wrong. You don't get weekends, but you also don't need weekends. And I think that's one of the really awesome things about it is you start learning to look at the world as every day being the same. You're not confined to doing certain things sometimes of the week and certain things other times of the week. Next is family time. And this is also, all of these are double-edged swords, guys. So I'm going to give you first the good thing about, you know what? Let me give you the bad part about family time. As I keep saying, you never get to let your guard down. So how much family time you get that is purely 100% family, it's not impossible to have. It's absolutely possible to have, but you have to really make that choice to have it. The way I do that is I wake up early in the morning and I work all day long, every day, and sometimes that's out on the job, sometimes that's here doing admin work, sometimes that's responding to emails. This YouTube channel itself is finally becoming something that's bringing in a little bit of revenue so that I can treat it more like a job. So I come in here at times and I just say I need to put 3 or 4 hours into YouTube and answering comments and answering questions. There's always something. What I do is I make sure from the moment I wake up until, let's just call it 6 or 7 p.m. It could be any time of day. Sometimes this is 3 p.m., sometimes it's 8:30 or 9 p.m. But what I do is, until I decide that it's time to shut down, until that moment arrives, I'm productive all day. I'm doing something that needs to be done, something I could call a job, all day long, every day. And then in the evening, I shut down, and that's the time. Don't get me wrong, I have time with my family in between and throughout that if I'm home and they're home. But I'm also working. But in the evenings, I force a specific time where I stop checking emails, I stop looking at my phone, I stop thinking about the business, I stop thinking about tomorrow's job. I assume that whatever I've done for the day is going to need to just be good enough, and I go ahead and shut down. So that's the downside, sort of, is that yes, so much of your life is consumed by running this business and making sure it doesn't fail that you don't really get to just be in the moment a whole lot. However, here's the great thing. I make my own schedule. I decide what time I'm going to schedule that first job for. Well, my wife needs to take our 8-year-old to school 5 days a week, or however many days a week he has school that we have him here. So when she needs to take him to school, that's an 8 a.m. drop-off. She drops him off between 7:30 and 8. Now, I would like to be working at 7. I'd like to get my day started a little bit earlier so I can finish it earlier, so I can have more time in the evenings. But the great news is, because it would be such a hassle for her to load up the twins, which they're 2.5 years old, for her to load them up and take everybody to the school and come back and unload everybody, that's extra work. So what I get to do is in the mornings, I know what I have planned out for my day and I am being productive, but when I wake up in the morning, I wake up super early. I take a little bit of time to myself just sitting on the front porch. I get to see all of my kids for a couple hours in the morning, or at least my 8-year-old, maybe I see him for more like 30 or 40 minutes, but my twins are around the entire time. I get to say good morning to my wife. I get to have some coffee with her. I get to see my boy off to school when she goes to take him. I get to spend time with the twins while they're gone. I come in here into the office and I print up 1 or 2 things, get my schedule together, get my notebook together, get everything in the truck, get the truck warming up. And it's a nice, easy start to the day where I feel like I've really got to be with my family, as opposed to having a regular job where oftentimes you have an alarm set for the time that you have to wake up in order to get everything done and be to work on time, and that alarm goes off, and then it's go, 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 go. You don't really get any quality time with anyone. And then the same thing for the evenings. If let's say my little boy had something happen at school and, let's not say traumatized him, but something's happened at school or in his life or with one of his friends, and he's in a particularly emotional state, and I just feel like he needs me. My wife can call me and just say, hey, I think he really needs you today. Is it possible for you to come home? Well, you know what? I'm a business owner. I own my own business. I set my own schedule. I try not to do it often because people don't like to be rescheduled on. It's not super professional. But when my family needs me, I can shut down whatever I have going on. None of these jobs are ever so important that I can't call and reschedule for a few days later and just go home and take care of my family. And that's also a really amazing benefit. And it also goes for, if my wife gets sick, she's like me. If she gets sick, she still has a job to do. My job is to go out and make money. Her job is to run an entire household flawlessly, which she does. So when she gets sick, the kids still need to be fed. The kids still need to be dressed. The kids still need to be bathed. So many things still need to happen. The dishes still need to get done. I'm still going to need dinner. There's always a household to run. But if she gets really sick, and there's a big difference. I know when my wife's really sick. There's times when she's sick, and then there's times when she is sick. And I can, again, it's not always easy, but I can reschedule a couple days worth of work, or even if I can't reschedule all of it, I can reschedule most of it. And at worst, take care of her and the kids all day, and then I can just shoot out to do one quick job and come back if it's just too important to reschedule. But you get to serve your family as a provider and as a parent and as a husband and as a son and everything else. You get to serve your family better when your time belongs to you, when your business belongs to you. Moving on to the next thing, here's another one to talk about with a handyman lifestyle is, again, I'll do the bad and the good because they're all double-edged swords. You don't get any benefits, guys. You don't get any. This is your business. There's no employer paying half of your Social Security taxes. There's no employer providing you with health insurance. There's no calling in sick. You know, I mean, if you get sick enough, you just can't work. But you can't just call in sick and know that somebody else is going to show up and get on the clock and take care of what you needed to take care of. If you get sick and you miss a day, you're just done. There are no benefits. You know, you've got to redo that day. So now not only did you lose the income, for which there's no sick time to take, you've lost a day worth of income, and you've made some tenants or some clients unhappy, and you have to go back and take care of them later. There's no federal holidays. You can take off the federal holidays, of course. That's great that you're able to because you own the business, but nobody's paying you to take that federal holiday off. But that leads me to the good part about this, which is the pride that you get to take in having provided. Not only provided for your family and your children and your loved ones, but even provided for yourself. So here's an example. We went to Texas for Christmas to see my family. Now, that's really hard to do. If y'all watch this channel a lot, you know that I'm shooting for, I like to go for a ballpark of about $600 a day for any day that I leave the house in the morning and stay gone all day and come home in the evening. I like for that to be a $600 a day. My household finances and budget and our lifestyle is built around me making a certain amount of money. The bills are in place. The spending is in place. We don't raise and lower our lifestyle and our standard of living throughout the year as the work raises and lowers. We just live the life we live. It requires X amount of money, and I have to make that money, and I do make that money. But to take 6 days off to drive to Texas, so first of all, just the vacation itself costs money. Of course, you have to spend gas. You may or may not have to pay for lodging, for food. There's lots of expenses that come along with just simply taking a vacation to another state for a week. But the bigger thing on top of that is when you're like me and most business owners, you're working 7 days a week because you have to. Financially, you have to, and also just to keep your business running smooth, you have to. So for us to plan a week-long vacation to Texas, one of the things that requires is that I look at the number of days I'm going to take. So let's call it 5 days, because maybe one of those days I'd have been off anyways. Maybe I'd have been here working on yard work or something. But to take those days, I now need $600 times 5 days of lost income to make up for. But guess what? You can't make up for it when you come back. There's no steady paycheck coming in and then you can just work a few extra hours over the next 2 months. You got to earn that money before you spend it. So the pride that I'm speaking of comes when you want to do the trip, you know it's going to be hard, you plan the trip, and then you start scheduling to make the money that you need before the trip happens. And it means that you leave the house a little earlier every day, you make a few extra sacrifices, you come home a little bit later, you squeeze those jobs tighter together, you sleep less, you hurt your body more because you don't have the time to take your time and maybe drive to the store and get a piece of equipment or some materials that you can use to make the job a little safer or a little easier. So you just do what you got to do and you kill yourself. You literally break your body in half all day, every day for weeks or for months to put back that money to make that trip. But for me, that's a positive thing because I take a lot of pride in that. I take pride in the fact that I've built something here that I'm in control of, that I understand how it works, that I can navigate and that I can plan ahead accordingly with and set up my life to be the kind of life that me and my wife choose for our family. Next, here we go. So No boss. That's everybody's big dream, right? It seems most people just don't want to have a boss. A lot of people, me included in this to some extent, not as much as a lot of people I know, but a lot of people, their idea of having their own business is this idea of not having a boss. And it's true you don't have a boss. However, you have multiple bosses. Of course, every client of yours, in some way, shape, or form, is a boss because and it doesn't mean that they're a boss in terms of they own you or they own your time. But if and when you agree to perform work for somebody on a given day at a given time to a certain level of quality for a certain amount of money, when you make that agreement, that's now your responsibility. The same way that you make an agreement with an employer that you're going to show up Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, you've made dozens of agreements with dozens of clients to follow through on what you said you would do. So in some ways, you have multiple bosses, dozens or hundreds or a handful, however many clients you have, those are all bosses. However, where it is correct is you don't have a boss. You can get yourself there, and I'm going to tell you how. It's a lesson I had to learn a very, very, very hard way because I found myself, without this lesson having been learned, in a position where I did kind of have a boss because I had one client and I needed to make them happy. Now, I did break free of them and I did go find new clients, but the lesson I learned was if you don't want to have a boss, then you need a lot of clients. In fact, you need to have so many clients and so much work that you can drop a third of what you have going on. Drop a third of it, just have it go away, ghost you completely, and still be just fine. Still have enough work to keep you busy for another month while you seek out a couple new clients to make up for that lost workload. But, so it's true, you don't have a boss, but you only don't have a boss if you're running the kind of business that keeps you busy 24/7. You have to be busy and engaged with what you're trying to build 24/7. So now I want to talk to you all about the different types of days that you have as a handyman. I think this really boils down what the lifestyle, in terms of what it feels like to be a handyman. There's not one kind of, it's not Groundhog Day. You don't do the same kind of day over and over. There are some times of year, like the busiest times of year, they can feel like Groundhog Day because at that time of year, your schedule just gets super backlogged. You don't have enough time to do all the work, and you kind of are in a position, not because you need the money, but to keep your clients happy and to keep your business rolling along smoothly, to keep your ratings, 5-star ratings from everybody. In order to do that, you have to work non-stop during those busy times of year. So that can feel like Groundhog Day. But I'm going to tell you what most of the year feels like. And it breaks down into sort of different categories of days. Now, I'm going to tell you my favorite category of day. My wife knows what I mean when I tell her that I had just a good old-fashioned handyman day. It feels like I don't get to have those so much anymore, because I have my son working for me. I frequently have other guys working for me. I've got the YouTube thing going on. I've got a lot that I need to be doing around the house, promises I've made for upgrades and getting stuff fixed and just general maintenance. I have cars that break down, etc., etc. So I don't get as many of these days as I'd like, but when it was just me, especially when it was just me, let's say a year after I started this business. So I had a year under my belt now of learning how to deal with my clients, how to schedule, how to estimate, how to sort of navigate throughout my day. I had a very good idea of how to do this after a year because I had a year of experience. And those handyman days, those are the days I still love them, and I still put them together these days, just not as often. And what these days are is you take a whole bunch of little jobs. The little jobs that are easy, maybe one or two of the jobs that day aren't too little or too easy, but it's generally not a super complex day. You've just got a leaky sink, an exhaust fan in a bathroom that's not working at your second job, a little patch to do at your third job, a leaky roof at your fourth, just all little one-off jobs. And my favorite days are when I can string a minimum of 5 of these together, sometimes 6 and 7. I've even been known to do 8 in a day, but that's insanely rare. But to do like 6 a day, that's really great because you're charging $125 trip fee minimum. And that's just the minimum. So right off the bat, that would be, what, $750 for the day? And then if a few of those jobs you can charge an extra 50 or 75 bucks on, that's how you get that $1,000 day under your belt. But forget about a $1,000 day. That's never the goal. It's a stupid goal. You're not trying to get rich. You're trying to build a business, right? But to go out for a day and to have everything scheduled, to take the time to sit down on the computer, go into Jobber, look at the map, look at the names of the jobs, figure out a nice little order you can do them in that keeps you in the same part of town on a little loop, and you leave the house early in the morning, you've got your list for Home Depot, and you know it's a good list, and you're going to get everything you need for the day. You stop in, you're only at Home Depot 25 minutes, you got all the stuff, check out, show up at that first job 15 minutes early. You gave yourself an hour for it, but you showed up 15 minutes early, and then lo and behold, you get it done in 23 minutes. You call the next job. They say, yeah, come on over. I'm already available. You shoot over there, scheduled yourself an hour for that one, knock it out in 30 minutes. Call the next job. Yep, go ahead and come over right now. We're home. Head over there, knock that one out, call the next job. Maybe they're not home and they say, no, we're going to have to stick to our original time. But now you've built in an extra hour and a half, and you can jump on your Jobber app and you can go, oh, I need to do an estimate for that fascia for those guys. How far away is that? Click the map button. Doo-doo-doo. Oh, 7 minutes from here? Awesome. Drive over to something you didn't even schedule. Take all your measurements, take your pictures. Go ahead and get back in the truck. Drive to the next job, park about a block away because you're still waiting on the time to come up. Go ahead and do that estimate right there in the app on your phone. Send that off, have it taken care of. Boom, that's another thing off your list that you didn't even know you were going to get done. And you just keep doing this all day. And come about 3:30, 4 p.m., you're stopping at that last job, replacing a toilet fill valve. You're in a good mood. The weather was nice. Your music was good for the day. You knocked out a bunch of work. You know your property managers are going to be extremely happy to just see all those jobs just getting thrown off that list. You get home, you put in, you might have done some of it on the road if you had the time, but you get home, you get all those jobs invoiced. Maybe it takes you an hour because they're all just simple little one-off jobs. The pricing is easy. Descriptions are always the same. Get everybody invoiced. It's like 5:30 p.m. And then you can go sit on the front porch with your wife with a big old smile and just go, I knocked shit out today. Like I really knocked shit out today. I just knocked that list down by 7 more items that I didn't even know I was going to have them knocked down by so quickly. I put money in the bank. I'm home with my family now. And life is good. That is my favorite kind of day. I can't say that's an average day. There was a time, like I said, after that first year, let's say from year 1 to year 2, that little block of a year in there, that was like 2-3 days a week for me oftentimes. And those are amazing days. But moving on, let me mark this one out. Another type of day is, let's go to one of the bad ones, all right? Working sick. There are times, and I'm at the tail end of this right now. I think y'all can still hear it in my voice, and I've got like cotton mouth. Like my glands are making tons of saliva, but I've still got cotton mouth. My lungs are still messed up. My throat's pretty scratchy. This household has been sick for 2 weeks. I think today's the very first day that we can honestly say nobody is sick. Not even a little bit. Like I said, I've got a couple symptoms that are just kind of hanging over, but nobody's sick. But I had to work through this. Not every day. I took a few days for being sick, luckily, because Thanksgiving to New Year's is my only slow time. And it's not even that slow, but it's slow enough that I can at least take a little bit of time to recover if I'm sick. So that's nice. But that's another type of day you need to be looking forward to, is working sick. Sometimes the work's just got to get done no matter what. You just can't let those jobs sit there. You can't have those tenants with things broken in their house that you're not getting fixed. So working sick days, that's one of the bad ones, but that's okay. Next is what I'll call a big job day. So a big job for me, for my business model. Now, there are guys who are remodeling whole kitchens. They spend a month on them, or they're tearing out an entire bathroom and doing custom tile floor to ceiling. You know, those can take weeks or a month. But what I'm talking about with my business model is my biggest jobs, absolute biggest jobs that I will take on. I won't even estimate jobs bigger than this. Very, well, with a few exceptions, but it's very rare. My biggest jobs are 2-day jobs. And really, they're more like day-and-a-half jobs, but I give myself 2 full days in case something goes wrong. But big jobs are basically full-day jobs. Maybe it's a lot of fascia repair, like 4 different rotten fascia spots on one house. I got to cut all 4 pieces out, put all 4 new pieces in, get everything tightened back up, painted to match, sealed up, etc., etc. Big job days, they're cool. I like them. They're easy. Those are great days for podcasts, right? Because you're doing basically one type of task. It's going to be somewhat repetitive, or at least not involve too much skill. And you're just going to kind of be doing this one thing all day long. And those days are nice because you can put your headphones in, put on your podcast, put on an audiobook, whatever it is you prefer, and just kind of go through your day. They're not super exciting. You don't feel like a king when you get home, like you just took over the world. But you make some good money. And those big job days, those are the ones that if I'm shooting for $1,000 a day, it's not usually that I'm shooting for $1,000 a day with the little jobs, although it's very possible. But if I do $1,000 a day, typically that's going to be part of a big job. That's going to be where I'm looking at the big job and I'm going, I should be able to do this in a day. However, if anything goes wrong, anything at all, if I forget a tool that I needed and I have to waste an hour going to get a tool, I won't get it done in a day. It's going to end up being 2 days or a day and a half usually. And that day and a half, I need to invoice as if it was 2 full days. And y'all know that I like $600 days. That's a nice happy number for me. So what I do is if I'm doing a job that I think is going to be a full day, I try to get that up real close to $1,000. And typically these are going to be like fascia or especially drywall, lots and lots of drywall stuff. So those jobs luckily are super, super light on materials, and they're very few materials, and it's mostly labor. So what I try to do is I try to bid those jobs so that if I get it all done in a day, then even if it's not exactly $1,000, if I make $900 in a day, to me that's $1,000 day. Not a huge difference between 900 and 1,000. You know, there's more variance on how many hours it took to call that a day than anything else. So if I can go work like 7.5 hours, put $900 in the bank, then that's a pretty cool day. I enjoy those days. So big job days are going to be one of your days. Those are the ones that you had to write an estimate for. So they took up an admin day previously, but you had to write an estimate for, and then you had to be really super prepared for it. Maybe you had to order materials, but you had to have all your ducks in a row and plan them in advance so that they do go off flawlessly, so you get them done in a day. So next type of day is what I call sort of a relaxed kind of day. And again, when you're a business owner, the definition of a relaxing day changes dramatically. If you work a 9 to 5, a relaxing day is a day out at the lake. You know, it's just hanging out and fishing and doing nothing really. As a small business owner running a handyman business, a relaxed day for me looks something like this. Maybe I didn't schedule much work on that day, because I do leave gaps in my schedule, and this is good advice for y'all actually. Try to leave, if you get real busy to where you're booking out weeks and weeks, don't book everything too tight, because you need to be able to take care of all the emergencies and urgent jobs that pop up within there. So I'll leave these days, you know, that are super light. Maybe I have one job in the morning, and then I know that there's a few other things I can choose to do, like some vacant properties to work on that day if I want to. But if I don't want to, then those days are available for a lot of other things. So typically those days are going to involve one or maybe two really tiny jobs. The types of jobs like if somebody says leaky garbage disposal or garbage disposal not working, I'm going to show up with a new garbage disposal just in case. I always have one on hand in the van. That's part of my inventory now. At least one, if not two, garbage disposals. So on these relaxed days, maybe I'll show up and do a garbage disposal in the morning. That's 45 minutes tops, even if I have to replace the entire garbage disposal. And then maybe I'll have one other thing scheduled for hours later, and the rest of my day is kind of open. So on those days, that's the day that I'll go do estimates maybe, like I'll just drive around town doing estimates. I oftentimes won't even take my van. I'll take the 𝗘𝗨𝗫𝗧𝗬𝗓 or the pickup, and I won't bring all my tools because I know I'm not doing any big work. I have very small, very confined jobs. I know exactly what tools and materials are necessary. So I've got like a comfy seat, nice AC, knock out the first job, drive to one or two places and do an estimate, go do the second job at lunchtime. And then at lunchtime, I can decide, do I want to go home or do something else? And then maybe a move out will come in. I'll get an alert on my phone and I'll be like, oh, okay, I got a new move out. Where's it at? Go into the Jobber app, look at it on the map. Not too hard to just swing in on my way home. So then I'll do myself a favor, especially if it's a big move out, and I'll just swing in on my way home to that move out, do a little inspection of my own, take some pictures of the additional items that I found, take measurements of the blinds, take a paint sample if I'm going to be doing any painting so that I don't have to go there, get a sample, go get it matched and come back. And I'll put together my shopping list for that move out. I'll put that together today, and then I'll just file it away inside my folder so that when I do that move out, maybe 5 days from now, I've already got the list of materials. So I did myself a favor. Like I said, I was in a comfortable vehicle, not in a rush. Just a super nice chill day. You don't make a lot of money those days, but you can get a lot of stuff wrapped up those days. And that's also the kind of day where you get home early enough and you can say, okay, I don't want to have to take a whole admin day later this week so soon, like I'm really booked, and I've still got a couple hours till 5 o'clock, so how about I come into the office and I just go through all my jobs, just to open up each one and just look at it and make sure I'm on top of everything, make sure everyone got scheduled, make sure work was assigned out to my son or somebody else if I need to assign it out, do some invoicing. They send me emails of all the jobs they paid out over the last few weeks. Go in there and mark those all as paid in my Jobber software. Just sort of upkeep the admin side of the business. And that's a nice day. It's not a big money day. Maybe I only made $300 that day, but I got a lot done. I feel good. I'm relaxed, and I'm ready for some family time at the end of that day. And then finally, the last type of day, well, there's kind of two more. But the last work type of day is the one I just mentioned, which is an admin day. And guys, these are my least favorite. I'm going to highly suggest to you that if you have the mental capacity to force yourself to sit in front of a computer, because if you're a handyman, it's probably not something you would want to do or like to do. If you have the mental capacity to force yourself to sit in front of a computer and just do computer crap all day long, you're going to do really well in this. Because for me, that's the hardest thing in the world to do. I don't like being in an office. I don't even like being inside. I don't like being in front of a computer, and I don't like for all of my work to take place up here and none of it to take place with my muscles and my hands and my body. But admin days, I will tell you this, you wouldn't think it if you don't know this already, but if your business model is similar to mine, if you're not doing big kitchen remodels and instead you focused your business on the idea of getting lots and lots of trip fees and taking care of lots and lots of tiny jobs or medium to small jobs, every now and then a larger full-day job. But if that's your business model, you're going to have, at any point in time, I've got 30 to 60 open jobs. Not always, not right now, because it's the slow season. Me and my son have just been knocking everything out as soon as it comes in, like literally the instant it arrives. We just go get it knocked out. But other than this one little 30-day period of the year, from like Thanksgiving to Christmas, maybe to New Year's, Other than that, the rest of the year, you're talking about, let's just say, for me, I call it 30 to 60. Sometimes it's as few as 20 or 25 jobs on the books maybe, but sometimes it's like 70 jobs on the books. You need admin days. And what that means is you got to sit down at this computer early in the morning and you got to open up every single job that you have, every one of those jobs. You got to click on it, open it up, read it, look for your notes to see where it's at, make sure it's scheduled, make sure that schedule is in the computer and on your physical calendar, make sure you've predicted anything that you're going to need for that job. You don't want to show up and realize you're going to need something that you can't even buy locally. You have to go through all those jobs, and then you have to go through your phone. Go to every property manager and go through your text messages with them and just scroll, scroll, scroll. And every time you see something, check it on the computer. Make sure you didn't miss anything. Open up your email, same thing. Every property manager, every client you have, open up every email, read through it, respond to things you forgot to respond to. Meanwhile, new jobs are coming in. You got to get them in the computer. You got to get them assigned out. You got to call people and schedule. You got to call people and reschedule because emergency jobs came in. You got to invoice. You got to go through all your completed jobs and make sure they've all been invoiced. You got to make sure that you didn't have any that came in while you were on the road that you just swung over and took care of real quick but forgot to put in your software. You got to go look at the printouts or the emails or whatever form or fashion you get paid by your clients or your property managers. You got to go through and mark everything as paid, and you might have 2 or 3 weeks worth of just needing to go mark everything as paid. And then once you get all that done, you got to go look at all your open invoices and you got to check them out and you got to say, okay, here's the oldest ones. Wow, this one's 45 days over. They should have paid me about 30 days ago, and instead we're at 45 days now. And then you got to start making a list or a spreadsheet, putting together something so you can start emailing. And these are never big deals. They're usually just little jobs. But you might find out that you have $1,800 worth of invoices that are more than 30 days past due. So now you got to write emails and send text messages to all your clients, all your property managers, remind them of it. 9 times out of 10, they're going to apologize and get you paid right away. And then maybe you got to go pick up a check, or you got to go pick up 4 checks, or you got to take the checks that you picked up last week but didn't have time to go to the bank and get all that together and go to the bank. And then you got to go check on your insurance, and then you got to answer a bunch of emails from a bunch of property managers, and then you realize at 6 p.m. you've been on this computer all day long, you're still not done with all your admin work, and you got to finally just draw that line and say, okay, I'm shutting down for the night now. I've had all I can stand, and this was my admin day. And then the best thing is, once you go work for another 4 to 14 days, depending on how busy you are, some number of days goes by, and you got to do it all over again. And over the course of, let's say, 14 days times, let's call it 4 new jobs a day, let's make the math a little easier. Let's call it 12 days times 5 jobs a day. So 12 times 5, oh man, I'm brain farting. 60, right? Yeah, 60. So there's 60 new jobs. You got to start all over at the beginning of that list. Click on everything. Go through all of it again. Admin days are just my least favorite day. To top it off, in fact, on an admin day, like I said, my kids are here and my wife doesn't have to work. So on an admin day, I'm home. And I'll tell you, it's actually harder to be home in this office, knowing they're out there, hearing my babies laughing, hearing my 8-year-old laughing, walking out and seeing that my wife and my 8-year-old are doing some kind of arts and crafts and wishing I could just join. It's harder to be in the office all day ignoring your family than it is to just be gone working, which is the exact same amount of communication and free time with your family, but it's harder when it's here in the office. But admin days, if you're doing everything yourself, if you're a one-man show, that's one of those days you're going to have. But finally, I'm going to go over family days. They're super rare for me, guys, but I will tell you, and they're going to be rare for you in the beginning, if you're really trying to build something. And when I say the beginning, I mean for sure for the first year, most likely through the second year as well. You're not going to get hardly any time with your family. I will tell you, you'll get better and better and better at this. You'll get better at everything. Not by some huge margin. You know, there's a steep learning curve at the beginning. You're going to suck at the beginning, but you're going to very quickly get to good. But once you get to good, you're going to start to plateau a little bit. But even after you plateau, like that whole second year, you've gotten good by the end of your first year. You know what's up. You've seen most of the jobs. You've done most of the types of jobs you're ever going to need to do. You've started building up something of an inventory. You've started building up some processes. Things are becoming repetitive, which is super comforting because repetitive and boring is the opposite of exciting and scary. You want repetitive and boring because that in and of itself can be exciting if you make it exciting by challenging yourself, which is what I spent most of my second year doing. That's when I started timing all of my jobs. That's when I started really digging into what materials am I purchasing for these each time. You know, that's when I figured out just one little trick. You got a towel bar on the wall, right? Well, there's 16-inch towel bars, there's 30-inch towel bars, there's towel bars of all different lengths. And what I learned was I can buy a generic towel bar that's the longest towel bar. And then all I got to do is if it's a shorter one, I can cut that pipe. So now instead of needing 3 different sizes of towel bars in my inventory, I keep one size of 2 different styles. So I keep the largest size. One of them is a chrome kind of square one, and the other one is like a brush nickel circular base one. And those are going to cover like 80% of the jobs. You figure those things out your second year. And over time, what ends up happening is you just shave 3 minutes off of this job, 8 minutes off of that job, 4 minutes off of that job. You start shaving time off your materials procurement. You start getting everything set up in your van or your truck the same way, so cleaning it out and putting it back together gets quicker and quicker. And as you shave those tiny percentages for that whole second year, by the time you get to the third year, you start getting what I like to call family days. And I have to say that I still don't get enough of them, and I don't think my family gets enough of me, but it is way more than it used to be, and it's getting better every day. But the good news is, if this is what you do, and this is all you do, and if you take it seriously, this will become second nature to you. It'll get to the point where you almost need to remind yourself occasionally that you should be scared to get your butt up and make sure you keep moving, to make sure you don't slack, to make sure you don't fail. But you get those family days in the end. And then finally, looking forward into the future, what I get to look forward to now is I've got a large client base. I'm really never out of work, like I said, other than the slow time of year, but that's not really out of work. That's just, there's so little work that I don't need to leave the house 7 days a week and work as hard as I can. I get to relax a little bit and treat it maybe more like a 9 to 5 for 1 month out of the year. But what I'm looking forward to is I am getting better and better at this over time, just better and better and better. I've learned so much about what jobs to turn down and what jobs to do such a great job on that they always want to send me that type of job. I've got my inventory, I've got my processes, I've got my system. My family has settled into it and I've settled into it. And I'm going to be reaching the point soon where simply because I'm more efficient, and also thanks to YouTube, for sure thanks to YouTube, and I have you guys to thank for that. Because I have YouTube and I am able to monetize it to some extent, I do get to take time off for that. It doesn't really pay what I would like it to pay yet, but it's going somewhere. But I'm looking forward to next year, whether I had YouTube or not. This year, I think 2024 is going to be a great year for me. I think this is the year when I finally get to make a choice of, okay, do I want to keep working as hard as I've been working for 3 years, but make way more money and take care of some large financial obligations? Or do I want to work less than I worked last year, but make the same amount of money, but get more time with my family? And I feel like I'm going to get to do kind of both. I think I'm going to get to work less than I worked last year and make more money. And I'm trying to look for that balance over here where I'm still progressing our lives. There's no reason to ever be stagnant. I don't want to reach a place of comfort. I want to always be progressing. But this coming year, I think, is going to look like that. I think it's going to be the year I really get true true quality time with my family and have my ducks more in a row and get the YouTube thing running more smoothly. And really, finally, after 3 years, I think 2024 is going to be the year that I really can feel like I'm reaping the rewards of the 3 years of hell that I put into getting here. So what I want you guys to take away from this video, there's one main point that I'm trying to make here, is that this is a double-edged sword. I want you to know coming into this, it's a double-edged sword. But you'll be living your life. As Henry David Thoreau said, I came to the woods deliberately to confront only the essential facts of life and see if I could not learn what it had to teach, and not, when I came to die, discover that I had not yet lived. And when you're doing this, you're living every day. You're very in the moment. You're aware of where you're at, what you're doing, who you are. You know if you've put in enough, and you know when you haven't put in enough. And life becomes a very present and real thing that you are interacting with daily. You're not sitting there while it does what it wants to do to you and skims past you. Your life becomes yours, and you can do what you want with it. Just keep in mind always, don't let your guard down. One of the biggest things about being a self-employed handyman is you need to be present and articulate and intelligent and thinking and making plans and executing those plans. Even if your plan is to shut down at 6 p.m. and make sure you get a few hours of true quality time with your family, even that plan is a plan that you need to execute. Your time management is everything, but you can have the kind of life that you choose to have if you choose to go into this business. And that's the takeaway, is what you end up with, what you have, and how this feels. I personally, as you can tell by the thumbnail, am loving the handyman lifestyle. It doesn't feel like a lifestyle to me. It feels like a life. But I'm loving this life, and I hope you guys do too. Please do not ever hesitate to reach out to me. If you're starting or running your own handyman business, do not hesitate to reach out at bulletproofhandymanbusiness@gmail.com. I will be here to help you guys with anything that I can help you with. Other than that, I love y'all. If you're in the business, I hope you're doing great. If you're just entering the business, I wish you good luck, and I hope you're doing great. But I love y'all. I hope you're out there killing it, and I'll talk to you later.